Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Good Morning Soul. And today, I'm going to be doing another one of those memory videos. I'm going to be taking a trip down memory lane, and I'm going to be talking about something that my brother and I used to do. And I say my brother, but I did it with a couple other people. And that is, well, before I get into it, I have to clarify and go on a little bit of origin story. My brother and I, we watched a lot of wrestling as a kid. I think I've been watching wrestling for like 10 or 11 years now. And as a kid, we completely ignored all of the little things that they have when they put wrestling on that says, do not try this at home. Don't try it at home or you'll die, or whatever they put on the screen. We did a lot of kind of like backyard wrestling. My brother would be really into it sometimes, and we'd really do these dangerous stunts and all these other things. But thankfully we were smart enough to be as safe about it as we could. I remember we did most of it on the trampoline, and even though we did most of it on trampoline, I remember we'd do it in bedrooms. We'd set up a mattress and just get a bunch of blankets or do a bunch of other things. And we'd have other things in wrestling. The wrestlers go through the tables, and we'd have cardboard boxes that would kind of imitate that. We'd have these big moves where we'd power bomb someone, and sometimes we would put a mattress on the side of the trampoline and we'd throw people off of a trampoline onto a mattress, which is not safe at all, especially if you're a small child. And we were so small back then, we were actually pretty good at some of the wrestling things we did. I think I was the biggest bump taker because my brother, he was probably the best at it, and he was probably the best at getting most of the moves. And I was pretty small, and I don't weigh what I weigh now, so he was able to lift me pretty high. And I remember a lot of jackhammers and power bombs and stuff like that. And we would even we had a home video camera that I don't know what happened to, but we were recording it for a little bit. And some of the moves, I remember, we had chair shots to the head. We had, stuff like I said earlier, throwing people off of trampolines. We'd have the moves that are off the top rope, but obviously we don't have ropes, so we would just imitate a top rope, I guess. But we would do the big moves where you flip onto the other guy. None of it really hurt. I do remember a couple of certain spots that could have gone better. I remember my brother power bombing me from one bed to another. I remember that one hurt. I remember taking a tombstone on no padding whatsoever. That kind of sucked. I remember getting Batista bombed, which is our power bomb. Maybe it was just a power bombs. Maybe it was a power bomb, or it was a choke slam, which were our favorite moves back then. But basically, I remember getting it was power slam or choke slammed onto a chair. That really sucked. And I remember we would introduce storylines and all these other things. And that only happened once we brought a camera into it. We were okay, well, we need characters. So we would my character was kind of supposed to be the general manager, Vince McMahon type of character, because we just assumed we needed one of those. And and then everyone else kind of had different characters that they would do for different times. And I remember we'd have entrance music because we would have the WWE games nearby, and we would just play the music in the, because it would let you listen to wrestlers' theme songs in that game. So we would just play those. And we had some effects. We had a couple of things. It was so trashy and so cringy, but there was these little glimpses of talent, little glimpses of character, little things that I think we had actual potential. I think there's an alternate universe where my brother and I are professional wrestlers. And I remember we would bring other people into it. I remember I had a birthday party where I brought a bunch of people over, and I told them about me and my brother doing the trampoline stuff, and they were into it, so they agreed. They thought they'd do it. All of the, like when I saw them, I realized how good my brother and I were, because they were all awful. I remember my other friend who like lived down the street, who was actually pretty good at it too, and he watched a little bit of wrestling. I think the people who we brought in, none of them even watched wrestling, so that's probably why they suck so much. I don't want to say their form was off, because that sounds pretentious, but none of them seemed to know what they were doing. Whereas me and my brother, like, we had like it down. Like, I remember my brother would like just be like into like practicing or whatever. Like, we would just go out there. I remember doing that. Like, we lived in Minnesota. It's fucking cold out there. It's usually snowing. I remember doing this in the snow, and I remember cars would drive by, and we'd be so into it that we'd like do like bigger moves for when the cars drove by. And we would I think because we'd try to do promos and stuff like that. I'm sure they were terrible because none of us hit puberty yet, but I'm sure like there was some quality there. Like, I remember like 1 or 2 promos where I got like goosebumps, and we never had really any big storylines. We would just have like title matches that were kind of okay. And I remember like we would have like kind of like just fan fiction matches where like I would be one guy and my brother would be another guy, and we kind of just go from there. And sometimes we would like we'd even have like a full like storyline for that, whoever we were pretending to be at that point. And we would like we would get like a full like season for that, whoever that other person was, and then we just start all over. And yeah, we did that a lot. Like, I mean a lot. We did that at least like 100 or so times, and nobody aside from like one small instance, nobody got injured, which is a miracle. And I only say that a miracle because not that like we like, for the age we knew what we were doing, but at the same time we obviously didn't know what we were doing. But like when I look back at some, like, I can't look back on the footage, but when I remember the footage, I do remember that we like were safe. All our spots were pretty good. I do remember sometimes we were not safe. I remember we introduced a ladder at one point, and that was the worst idea we ever had. We literally had a ladder next to a tree and a mattress, and we just terrible ideas. Terrible ideas. But we were really into this for a while. And I still, like, if I had a trampoline, I would still fucking do it. I don't give a shit. I had so much fun back then. And my brother was he was so into it back then too. Like, I remember a lot of times, like, I wouldn't want to do it. I think just to prove to him, like he would try to get me to do it a lot of the time, and I'd be like, no, I don't want to. I think I just didn't want to do it just to show, like, just so I could, like, prove that I could say no, like, oh, I don't want to do it. And then he'd convince me anyway, so eventually I was like, I'm going to say no. When I say no, we're actually not going to do it for once. Yeah, God, this has been a trip down memory lane. Yeah, I think I'm going to cut it at that, but some real good memories here. A lot, like, so many things just flashed into my mind in the past 10 minutes. I'm sure, and there's a bunch of other kids who do this, by the way. Like, you could just look up backyard wrestling, look up trampoline wrestling, a bunch of shit pops up. And I would like to say we're much safer than the other people who do this. Other people are fucking crazy. Other people, like, are trying to die for the sake of it, I swear to God. Thankfully, we are not those people, and thankfully, we never got injured, and we had a lot of really good memories. But yeah, I think I'm going to cut it at that. Thank you again for watching another episode of Good Morning Soul, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. And with that, I leave you.